Rachel, would you do the invocation for us? Absolutely. All right, everybody stand, please, and say, stand up and pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today, gathering together to do the business of the city, Lord, and we just pray your provision and your wisdom over us counselors and mayor and attorney and city administrator, city clerk, and even our dear friend, Mr. Thompson, as we go through this process together and make our discussions fruitful, Lord, and just bless our city, Lord. We thank you very much for this gift of the city of Walnut Grove that you've given to each of us and the internal desire to serve here. Lord, we just pray that you bless us, protect us, and protect our city from any inclement weather that may be coming this weekend. All these things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Rachel. Roll call, everybody is present. Full council. We're going to move on to agenda approval. There's a motion on the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve this agenda, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approval, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. And there is no old business on the agenda, so we'll move on to new business. And Joe, I'm going to turn it on over to you.
So our first piece of new business is to discuss an ordinance proposal from Councilman Davis, regulating display of age-restricted psychoactive products. So I'm gonna let Councilwoman Davis explain the ordinance itself. But what I do want to point out is it is a timely ordinance, especially with a lot of new federal laws that are going to be charging this in November if things don't change. Regarding products and things of that nature. One piece of that law that does touch on, it doesn't explicitly state that things that look like a kid's product should not be displayed out in the open. A lot of this actually may, as it stands, be going away anyway by November. I'll do some more digging on that to see where that affects us in the city. What we'll also point out is this ordinance does strike a balance between legally obtaining business licensing, but at the same time protecting public safety in regards to youth. So I'll let Councilman Davis.
Thank you. Do I need to go down here or can everybody hear me from here? Can hear me? Okay. So first let me tell you my why for this. My children and I are constantly together and they absolutely love going into a convenience store with a $5 bill and acting like it's the last $5 they'll ever get in their life and buying all the junk food and snack and candy and the soda. Upon entering a convenience store and we're standing at the register to pay, my goal is hurting my children and getting everything paid for. I'm not really paying attention to what is surrounding me right there at the register, but my kids are. Both of my children said, "Ooh, magic mushrooms, I want to try that." And I went, "Where do you see that?" And they pointed it out to me and I noticed a plethora of what I would consider highly inappropriate items that were on display to my twin 9-year-olds. So that's my why. I immediately thought, oh, this is not normal. This is not something that I've ever encountered in my life. Never gonna wear it, I guess. And by having it right there at the register and on display, it was very normalized to children who don't know, have no discernment at that point, you know. And then I'm thinking, gosh, somebody who is maybe like my daughter Ruby, she's 9, but she's very tall and looks older than she is. What if this is a 16-year-old coming in here seeing these products on display and buying them? You know, just it gave me some real pause. So for safety and protection of our youth is really what my goal was with this ordinance. So I started researching and looking into what the provisions were in the state law that are given to municipalities. Now these, pseudo pharmaceutical drugs is what I will call them. I'm not, or pseudo psycho and, psychoactive products, are legal for sale in the state of Georgia. So we can't outright ban them. So this ordinance is to protect our youth by covering it. Now, if they're in a locked display case that's clear, they just need to make it opaque. They can glue paper to it or cover it with a piece of cloth. So the cost to our business owners who are existing within our city limits is going to be minimal, if any. And the cost for us on the back end as a city to enforce this is going to be minimal because we already have code enforcement with potential future of maybe a city marshal or a small police force. So, and those regulatory efforts would help us keep all the costs down. And if you've noticed, in this, I've not only given the ordinance written, I've also put out a letter, a proposal of a draft letter to merchants explaining what this is, what our rollout plan is, to give ample time so that we're not forcing something that's overly burdened on our current businesses, because we don't want to deter business or stop anybody from doing business lawfully within our city. We just, like I said, the goal is just to, and I also included a FAQ, frequently asked questions for those merchants, along with the ordinance. And then also I have a proposed schedule for how long we should give. Also, I'd like to point out, I have, the last 2 pages is a resolution of intent by city council and mayor. This will further emphasize our intentions by putting this ordinance out. It will legally protect us from any barriers that we may encounter. Because we're not, like I said, we're not trying to stop businesses from doing business in the city. We're trying to protect youth, and that's a health and safety issue.
I think it's excellent. I think that it being on display causes a lot of questions and, hey, let me try that. You know, you wouldn't put, about as blunt as it comes. You wouldn't put cocaine on display, you know, and because what would a child do? They, let me try that. What is that? And I am in total agreement with, I don't think any paraphernalia should even, and I'm sure you touch on that, should be displayed, because it just brings up questions.
Correct.
And so I'm on board with this. I haven't read through the entire ordinance, which I will before our next meeting. And I think that's fantastic. I appreciate you, going into forethought. I never take my kids into convenience stores. Except for Easy Thought. That's the only convenience store he goes to.
You get chicken there?
Yeah.
You used to check us there.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So, I never think about that. And so I'm glad you had that forethought. That's good.
You have are there 2 different versions?
No, one is the ordinance and one is the resolution. And then there's a letter to mayor and council explaining what this is. There's a merchant notice letter when there's the FAQs.
Yeah.
To the merchants or to anyone, quite frankly. And then there's the ordinance. The ordinance starts here.
Yeah,
The resolution,
I got that.
yeah. And
why is it necessary to do a resolution and an ordinance?
my fear is there will be significant blowback and it's just to cover our 6. That's really why.
Yeah.
If we do the resolution of intent first,
Mhm.
then we do the ordinance. It's just solidifying our intention here is not to deter a merchant's ability to do business in the city of Martinez legally. We are intending to further protect the health, safety, and welfare of our youth.
I'm gonna ask our city attorney. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about all of this, but what would you Which part would you like to?
I'd love you to share all of your thoughts.
Okay, all right. Well, first, I've got a 9-year-old too, and then 3 other kids. And I recently found out that just because a product is legal, that all that means is that it's not illegal yet.
Mhm.
You know, so there are chemists that stay one step ahead. They'll change one little ingredient,
Yeah.
and they'll take what was illegal and make it legal, just because the FDA hasn't caught up to make it illegal at that point. So I think it's really compelling to me to accomplish your objective to protect health, safety, and welfare of kids. To say, look, any product, I'm not even sure this is broad enough, you know, containing these ingredients, because then they might change it 1 degree and it's still the same type of thing. But I think it's a great step in the right direction to protect the citizens. I think that it'll at least signal that you're moving that direction, even if it's not as comprehensive as it could be. And then in terms of an objection, like whether it's going to hamper business or whatever, usually this is kind of categorized. They say, well, you're impeding on my free speech rights. Like if I'm allowed to display how to say what I need to say. You know, who are you as the government to say that I can't say this? And it's within the government's power to regulate the time, speech, and or the manner, method, and time of free speech. And this is just saying, no, you can sell a product that hasn't been made illegal yet. But only under these conditions, only in these places, and so forth and so on. So you're allowed to do this, and I think it's a great idea.
On page 2 of the ordinance, it goes into definitions. And if you have, better, broader language that will not incur the wrath of lawsuits, I would love to hear them so that we can change it. It says number 2, psychoactive product, any product intended for human consumption or in relation that is marketed, labeled, or represented as producing intoxicating, distort, stimulant, depressant, or hallucinogenic effect, including but not limited to kratom, hemp-derived intoxicants, and products marketed as containing psilocybin. That way, we're not saying like Delta 8 or Delta 45 or whatever number they're on now. We're just saying hemp-based. Anything that's psychoactive. So if there's even more broader language that would be more appropriate here, I would love to hear any so that we can rewrite it. So it will get us the maximum amount of impact.
Yeah.
And number 1, does that include alcohol then? Or coffee?
We already have restrictions for alcohol, and that's in our alcohol licensing ordinance. This is just an exception. State of Georgia says that they are not allowed to advertise. There are specific laws, OCGA, something, there's some numbers, and I think they may actually be in this ordinance right up. They're not allowed to advertise these things, so,
So they put the signage,
legal THC signs, having this stuff visible and being covered is already covered by state law.
kratom,
Kratom. I have no idea.
but we still have that in the windows,
Right,
some of our places.
right.
And I think our sign ordinance states no neon signs of any kind. So we need to get code enforcement working on that.
We already started.
Except for an open sign. An open sign is permitted. Okay.
I also included the regulatory fees.
I was asking to ask you that.
So because the cost is gonna be minimal, right? But if somebody comes into the city and wants to start a new business, let's say a convenience store or even a vape shop, you know, who knows? They may want to carry these other affiliates products along with these, you know, the stuff that's listed here, the psychoactive products. And it left it a little ambiguous here because our fee schedule is currently in flux. I didn't put a specific amount, but it says that it would be part of the adopted fee schedule. So that will help cover our regulatory side of it, covering, pay for our code enforcement who may spend time on these.
So does this, in itself prevent a vape shop? What age do you have, is there a certain age you have to be in order to buy vape paraphernalia?
21.
Okay, so it pretty much eliminates a vape shop as well.
No. They would just have to have everything behind, or they would have to make it 21 and up to enter. Is what they
Okay.
have to do,
Okay.
or,
And that's why
But
the
everything-
organize it is.
right, and put everything behind OK class, because like, the one big shop that I'm aware of, I can see from the intersection, not even driving in the parking lot, I can see from the intersection into their store because they have a clear plate glass window. I can see all of the products in paraphernalia that they have there. So that, and I don't know that we would, that our city ordinances allow them to black out that window. So they would have to.
So they would
change
have
their
to change
device.
their glass.
That is the question. Are they allowed to cover windows and black them out? And that sort of thing. Okay.
But there
Even
is,
with signage.
there is a
No,
part of it that says only a certain percent of windows can be.
25%.
That's what I'm saying, where they can't, just. And I'm thinking in terms of even other advertising that's in the window that covers the windows.
Nope.
Well, I mean, for safety reasons,
Yeah,
Right,
places are here.
right.
our current ordinance for signs in a window is it cannot take up more than 25% of
Okay.
of the area.
That was what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking in terms of if we're doing this sort of thing, if there's a tweak or two on the other things to complement this, now would be the time to do that.
Yeah.
You're right.
And this would be in effect for not only existing businesses, but all future businesses open to come to the city. And that's my goal.
Is there, I'm sure there are state laws,
Yeah.
but, for anyone entering an establishment that's 21 and up, is there anything that is not, they're entering it that's 21 and up, but they're younger than 21? What are, there's repercussions for that, I know, via state law, right?
Right.
Okay.
Little caveat to that question. So a lot of the stores that sell this isn't exclusively age restricted. So like a
Right.
gas station can sell these things.
Right, behind,
Right.
you can't see it, yeah, if it's supposed to.
But a vape store.
Yeah.
that does it.
Is there a way we can limit how many stores in town
They're just all ball.
have these products?
Yes.
Check out again.
That's a question that's coming up in a lot of towns right now. And recently GMA reviewed their city manager's page that's been communicated with the cities. There are examples of ordinances that have been passed, especially in Middle and South Georgia. Kind of regulate how many businesses or the moratorium on new businesses and sell these kind of things. A couple of them have been challenged in lower courts and have successfully been able to keep that ordinance intact, so I can get more information on that.
I mean, as small as we are, and we already have, what, at least or did have 3 places selling, and probably the new gas station,
We have 3 now.
okay,
We'll have 3 with one gets a business license.
And I will say our zoning ordinance, our total square mileage is also a blessing. There's state laws and city ordinances regarding how close you can be to a school, church, and also just our zoning in general by classification. So there's very limited places already where people can.
Don't you have to be 21 to buy cigarettes now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means
Okay.
I believe so.
21 to buy cigarettes. So they have to be behind closed things as well.
I'm sure we'll get the argument that, well, but that's how I make a lot of sales. People come in and
They
like the window shop buyers, But, and that's unfortunate for them in one sense, but I'm definitely in agreement of protecting as much as we can from even adults, because there are adults that just can't control. I mean, they're addictive products in many cases for some people, so. certainly doesn't hurt to limit where they have to think about their decision to purchase.
What would be the next step from here?
I would say a resolution isn't a bad idea. I would make it more broad than this ordinance itself, such as, protecting, public youth or safety. Still making it a pointed resolution, just not in regards to the selling of these products in general. Because then you can fit a lot of ordinances under a resolution being broad, and that's just a city goal or intent. So I would say a resolution is pointed of what we want to do with these types of ordinances. That way we can refer back to seeing the why are we passing this, and then we can direct them to that resolution. After that, just looking at, and this would be a big test for our city attorney, is the legalities of these things. Because though it's narrow in scope, it can be broad in the amount of different products and what other cities have tried. Because now we have signage involved, we have grandfathering of certain businesses with certain aspects, especially when it comes to physical things such as opening class, things of that nature. Now, putting some restrictions on some of the products and where they're located. Our business license expires at the end of the year and we don't have a renewal. So every one is a new business license. I don't know if that affects grandfathering in that aspect, but that's going to be a consideration as well.
OCGA, the two that are listed in the first paragraph, 3630-3 and 3635-3. Those provide the city with the authority to enact ordinances. They call it police powers to regulate businesses for public health, public safety, welfare, and morals. And historically, courts have upheld a municipality or county's governmental police powers to do so. Alcohol and display and access. Tobacco and vape products, display and access, pharmaceutical products, all of those are covered under the police powers that are granted to the city by the state, public health, public safety, welfare, and laws. So just something to think about. That I was really really dug in to find out, to make sure that we could do this, because I don't want any businesses to feel like they're not wanted here. We want businesses. And obviously there's a draw for this product because they're these stores we've been in, there's not just a little shelf with a little bit of products on it. There's a shelf as tall as I am with 4 sides and it's slab full.
There's a wall
Yeah,
of products.
right. So, yeah.
And I think it's worthy to mention too, that this is not just coming around because you walked in and thought about your kids.
No.
This has been an ongoing conversation with citizens and the city
Yes.
and council, and the fact that you dug in this deep and were able to find a way to bring this to council to review and have discussion about, I'm very thankful for. But this is something the city and the citizens have been talking about for some time.
Yes.
Okay, I think the next step would be to have you work with Joe and our city attorney, or you or whoever. To get a resolution in place as quickly as possible. Do you think that's possible by the next council meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, if we do the resolution at the next council meeting to make our intent known in a very broad manner for the public safety. And then in the meantime, work on the ordinance to get that going, to bring to the next work session, for further discussion and tweaking if necessary, and then bring it to the next council meeting after that. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
All right.
That has to, be advertised, right? Do we have to advertise that? No,
And working this out.
okay, I don't know, I was thinking.
Now, we ask the discretion of council to do a public hearing if y'all would like more feedback from the public audience.
Would you like to do that?
I mean, I think that, I
I
mean,
think it
it's,
should, so everybody has an opportunity to know.
let's see, maybe that's not great. They could also speak during public comment, but, I think advertising it, I think that's a good idea.
But you always get, when you do something like this, you get a list of people that say, well, we didn't know. And then you have an answer for that.
All right, well, why don't Joe and I work on a schedule and we will get that back out to everybody and we will try and work within the timeline. I don't know if the public, I guess the public hearing would have to be an advertisement. You were looking for
Does it
something
have to be an official public hearing, or can it just be an announcement that will take comments prior to our regular meeting? Could it be done that way?
We can do that. There are certain limitations on, for instance, say that this did somehow go some without French on. It probably is safer to do a official public hearing,
Okay.
so we can weigh citizens, feelings about it.
Okay.
Yeah, the resolution, I'm not worried about it at all,
Yeah.
but the ordinance probably should
Okay.
invite public comment.
Okay. All right, so we'll do the resolution at the next meeting. And then we'll work the advertising and all that stuff for the public hearing. Put that for the next work session for the council meeting. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Rachel.
Yes, ma'am.
And council for your comments and questions. I love that. I think this is going to be fantastic. Okay, Joe. Homegrown heroes. Love it.
So now we get to go to more fun. The inspiration of this ordinance, if anyone has had a chance to review it. I lived in New York, so I moved back home about a year ago. And 3 years lived in a small town in New York. Any town you go to up there, they have a program similar to this called Hometown Heroes. You see it in Texas as well. Honoring Our Heroes program, Pennsylvania started this. But it's basically a way to honor veterans, first responders, and really anyone who would like to honor in that capacity. But usually they'll have banners throughout town. They put it up through the seasons without snow there. That way you can see, they usually display what operations they were part of, who they are, rank, and their image. They even go back to the Civil War. People sponsor a profile of a Civil War soldier. So it's a real neat little thing that they have up there. And then as I came back home, I realized, ironically, that there was less things honoring veterans in Georgia, which is kind of, like I said, ironic because it's where people point fingers. And being a veteran myself, this could be a very prideful situation where people want to display their family member or themselves, and have their, image and showing that they are a hero from town long ago. As you dig into the ordinance, so the whole goal is having a mechanism for the city to officially honor somebody, whether they be military veteran or first responder. The program would feature banners throughout the city that display the specific honoree through their name, their image, branch of service, or service type, service dates, and any applicable wars or operations that they would like to be recognized for. And having an aggregate display established by the city showing all honorees in one location. Further, an annual ceremony made by the city and a Hometown Heroes Committee, and that's also in this ordinance as well. Candidates for this program must show proof of honorable discharge, current service, proof of any operation or wars, and usually a lot of these can be from their DD 214 if they're military. I'll have to dig a little more to see a good verification for first responders, which I mean, that's needed. Residency, past and present of the city, and or the sponsor of the family member as well. Candidates may be living or deceased and nominated by a family member or others in the community. The banners themselves, though there will be no fee established for admission to the program, the banners will be paid for by the sponsoree at the cost of creating the banner. Banners will be hung from approximately May to November in order to protect the banners from foul weather. And then if they need repair or replacement, that'll be coordinated with the committee and the cost of repair to the individual or sponsoring. And then the committee themselves, really wanted to emphasize the powers and duties of the committee. They'll act in an advisory capacity to the city council. In that capacity, prepare recommendations for adoption by council, such as nomination of candidates, plan for execution of an annual ceremony within appropriated funds or appropriated funds from the city or donations received. And a duty to coordinate with all associated vendors for banners, display and events. And it would be their duty to carefully and comprehensively review all applications for the applications to the program in an effort to maintain public trust and uphold the integrity of the program.
Couple of comments, a couple of questions. First of all, I want to express that I can actually experience this sort of firsthand. From the standpoint that in Columbia, South Carolina, they have a program similar to this. And my brother was honored in that, had his face plastered on the city bus, along with a number of other veterans. So it was kind of cool to experience that and see that and have the pictures. He was a Vietnam Purple Heart recipient. So, so I do know how it makes families feel even from afar with that thing going on. And the main question I had was, would it be appropriate to have included somewhere in there, maybe where there's an exception where they don't have to be one of those, but if there's a really exceptional citizen that we feel would fit into that, can they be included? And I'm not sure what that would involve, but maybe somebody saved several lives as just a citizen, not a military or something. But
The service over and above.
yeah, and I would think way over and above,
Yeah.
more so than just they were exceptional teacher this year or they were exceptional whatever. But that would be my only thing, would be that we want to include something like that if possible.
On that comment, on that, what you were just stating, I love the idea of recognizing a citizen who goes above and beyond. I don't know if I feel we should put it in this. Perhaps we can come up with a key to the city or a different kind of an award system for somebody like that. I think for the hometown heroes, I think we've instilled in our children, especially about military veterans, current people who are serving, and first responders. And I think going along with that theme would be a good idea to keep some consistency going. And not making it a subjective decision for the committee. This is very detailed and they have to have serving, or are a first responder. But the idea of recognizing other people, I love also. So we could come up with something else for that category. And recognize those people in a different way.
And I didn't come up with anybody off the top of my head. The only thing that came off the top of my head was the fact that we have a citizen that will turn 100 this year, for example. And, I would have to look into what their background is over the city over the years.
Yeah.
Just being 100 is not necessarily going to qualify them for that, but
Yeah.
If they were a contributing citizen, then I would think, yeah.
Remember we
They all record down here.
Turning 100 is a pretty good accomplishment.
That's a big.
Especially when you're still living alone in your home.
How do you guys feel about the committee made up of 3, having somebody on there, at least one person who was a veteran or
Yeah, it would have
first
to be.
responder
I think you'd have to have a veteran
on the committee?
Yeah.
That's great, yeah, absolutely.
No, I don't think it has to be a veteran. I think anybody that would
Within the
qualify.
categories.
Yes.
Yeah. I would love to see all the members
Sure.
as that, but if we made at least one member who's familiar with different forms.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great idea. I've seen the banners since I was on council and just thought it would be a great idea. And I think it's a very opportune moment as we're doing America 250 to implement this year and get it going. Is there a restricted number of people? We only have a certain number of polls. And would it be on a first come, first serve? How would that work?
So it does have in here, as space is available.
Okay, I didn't
Um,
read that. Okay.
and what I've seen some cities do, especially smaller towns with limited infrastructure and homes, they have, and this is completely up to the council, I probably advise against it at first until we see the need for it. They do an annual fee subscription, so a small fee to save your spot. They do first come, first served basis. I think the town I lived in prior, there's still about $15 for that fee. It's just basically a reservation. And then every year you have to renew that to be able to put a banner. Except there, the banner actually goes to the citizen after it's taken back. They're responsible for making sure it's in good repair.
If it just because somebody comes in and says, I want my uncle here, he grew up here and I want him put in there. That doesn't necessarily qualify them alone, right? The committee decides.
Right, the committee will decide, they have criteria built into this, of they had to have lived here. So for instance, if I lived
You
here,
had to live in Walnut Grove?
right, the veteran had to have. So for instance, if I lived here and I have, my uncle served in Vietnam or whatever, but he never resided even near Walnut Grove, that wouldn't qualify.
Right.
So, these banners will hang on the light poles, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and there will be one banner design that they all match, is that right?
And there's a couple companies that do it. They're very, like a better term, tasteful. They're not, gaudy or flashy, they don't
Right.
distract. But they're very tasteful.
Do you have an idea of an approximate cost for those banners?
I do believe each banner is probably gonna cost about $150.
Okay.
They're made of vinyl so that they're more durable and they stay in weather. And that's the cost of one company that I found, or a fee charged by another city that I saw.
And businesses within the community, if they don't have anybody they want to honor, they can donate the fee for the banner for someone who maybe doesn't have it. They
Absolutely.
want to sponsor somebody, and that would be up to the committee.
Right, and that's in here as well. They'll pair people if they want to do, because people can donate either to the committee itself, and there's limited, it's got restrictions on where those funds can be spent, and it has to be approved by council spending. But also they can pair them with an individual if they would like to sponsor a person.
Are
They have to have some.
we anticipating more, light poles going down the parkway and into the development? Yeah.
That is a good question.
Business.
Is there an underground utility?
Yeah, it's underground utilities, but there can be lamp lights,
That's what I was.
and there are ways to do these on the lamp lights also.
And you can go both sides. We would have to get more hardware, but you can put two banners on one light and have them both sides.
And in this year's budget, you will put a line item for this for incidentals, like additional stuff. Like, okay, great.
Well, have we thought of anything, using anything other than a banner? Maybe if we had some space, we could designate for like the bricks, where people could buy the bricks with the name and information on it.
Yeah,
Then they could be put down and left forever.
absolutely. The town I lived in up there, and if you want to refer to it later, was Westerlo, New York.
Mhm.
Population about the same as Walnut Grove, just a little bit more square mileage. They had a Veterans Memorial Park inside of their park. And that's where they did it. You had options, you could,
We could do a memorial wall
Right.
or a walkway.
and they had, things similar to that. Every year, that's where they held their ceremony. And then also they just started doing yard banners if you wanted to purchase those. They weren't necessarily tied to the program, but you could purchase one for your lawn, just like a graduating student.
Mhm.
Does this, do we have to modify our sign ordinance or anything in order to have vinyl?
Not for the banners, because those would hang on our own infrastructure. We're exempt from those.
Everybody comfortable with this going on with any incidental changes that we've discussed today? Well, on the council meeting for next week or 2 weeks from now, the 12th.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Joe. It's a great idea.
Happy, happy.
Butch. Okay. And retirement benefits.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
We've been discussing retirement for a while now. I'm sure well before I got here, retirement was discussed. It has not been the simplest process or the easiest. We did explore pension as a kind of a starting point. But after many discussions with GMA and a little bit of frustration, we did work out that we probably don't have the staffing to really effectively do a pension. They advise 10 employees, and they actually have a restriction on that. That's where the frustration came. But at that, before 10, you're paying more administrative costs than you are funding. So that's where the hangup is there. And then you also have, that's lifetime. So even if the city, 5 years from now decides we're going to do this, they still have to fund that pension for those people that were part of it. So it's kind of tying the hands of the future council if you look at that. So what we've done here, this is also through GMA, is a defined contribution plan. So with this, there's 2 different accounts that each person will have to have, a 401 alpha and my numbers and stuff. 501 or 457B. Some people may be more familiar with the 457B plan. This is similar to like TSP and things of that nature.
You're talking French to me.
I'm going to explain it.
First thing explain.
So the 401 alpha, this is part of the contribution that the city makes. So as people fund their 457B plan from their own contributions from their wages, we would fund the 401 alpha with whatever match that we have. And that way you're separating out what we're funding as far as some of the rules on that. So that could be who's my words.
Match of 100%. That one?
No. So their vesting period, things like that, they don't get those funds in that alpha plan until they're vested. And then those funds can be co-mingled once they leave the organization. And the way it would work is they would directly fund it from whatever they decide to from their pay. So whether it be 5%, 10% of their pay, they want to go towards that. It's administered by GMA. So they don't allow people to go over the cap of the year, step out of federal government. And it's nothing we have to directly monitor. And then they help us with the government or the operation of that. So through our accounting system, you'll see what our match contribution is. And then some of the digging in the weeds here. So as we go through, I'm starting on the 401 alpha. My plan is for all departments to be covered. All employees of the covered departments eligible to participate. I think also that part-time employees should be eligible. And that's just my opinion on that. And a lot of that has to do with, I think, elected should be eligible for this as well.
The what?
Elected,
Okay.
elected officials. And this, the whole reasoning behind that is to explain. So once some of the council members decide, say you decided you don't want to run again, something like that, you still want someone qualified, interested in the position. Some of that comes back to pay and benefits, just like it does for employees. That's kind of my mentality of why elected officials should be a part of this program. Same with employees. We wanted to balance the city's interest along with recruiting new employees into this. That way we remain competitive, whether it be to keep employees that we have or to recruit new employees in.
So if we had other paid positions, planning, zoning, DDA, they would be considered employees. And
DDA would not.
DDA would not.
No, so they're not employees.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then
Planning and zoning would be?
planning and zoning, no, they don't receive compensation.
No, I'm talking about if we created paid positions.
Planning and zoning does. We
Um,
pay them some.
as a
You know,
committee,
but I think the bylaws say that they can be paid.
Yeah.
They can be paid.
well, they still wouldn't be a city. They have to be a separate entity to be a committee or.
So, oh, well,
Okay,
I'll ask you something about DDA later.
since you said council elected officials, currently, now we're on the 1099 versus the W-2. So is that the same as?
That's something I'd have to work out with GMA. There's gonna be follow-on questions after I submit this questionnaire to kind of get into the operations of that.
There's also something I just discovered going through some paperwork. City council members are supposed to be paid with W-2s. We're supposed to be doing it that way. The documents that I came across clarified what council members are supposed to be considered. And so I was going to share that with you to make sure that we're doing it the right way, because we've gotten different expert.
Maybe because of the amount of the pay, it makes it different.
Yeah, it's just because it's a city, it's.
Because I know with IRS, I don't know what the number is now. Used to, it was $600. If it was under 600.
Yeah.
You were almost forced to do 1099s
I'll get that-
versus an
I'll get that
individual.
to Joe so he can dig into it a little bit more, but the document I was reading 2 days ago. Made it seem as though we need to get back to doing W-2s. I know.
And then further on the elected side of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure the electeds could not take part until the next election cycle. It's similar to compensation.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's true, but the logic tells me that.
That should be true. I
It
hope
should.
it's true.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the.
We should be able to vote it in for ourselves.
Well, we would have to vote it in first.
Or
We would have
whoever
to
comes in
yeah,
behind
but-
us,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
or ahead
but
of,
not for us right now.
not for us.
and I want to clarify that too, because I know there's been confusion about that in the past. It's, from what I've seen, it's what GMA kind of puts out is it's election cycle, not individual. So as a body, so the next 2 years after the next election, not individual council member running.
Okay.
So what about staggered terms though? Like me and Linda were
We're just elected.
elected.
So they're like Congress, right? So when Congress decides to do a pay raise, it goes into effect the next
Election
Congress.
for everyone.
Oh, okay.
Right. I'm pretty sure Georgia State laws that.
We can check on it.
Okay.
Yeah. And Joe, you also said that we're going to be looking into a different health benefit and life insurance.
Correct, and that's gonna be the next step, in trying to get our benefits package more competitive. is kind of what I'm looking at. Right now, what we're paying people keep, I can see that we may be able to do the exact same with actual insurance. And that's something we have to dig into more. That's just my thought process right now. That would be for the next budget cycle, not for going to the bank. Go through a little bit more of these rules here. So the way the math would work is it would match 100% of the first 3% that an employee puts in. So say I put 3% of my salary into this, that first 3% of my salary, we would match up to 100%. Then it'd be 50% to 5%. So 4% is what I get up to, that extra percentage, we only match 50% of that. And then the next percent of my salary would match 50% of that. So a total of 4% of an employee's salary could be matched.
And those matching contributions go into the 401k, right?
401k. I did not put a cap on this questionnaire. Now that is completely up for debate. It could go either way with that. You can budget to the maximum amount to your contribution limit. That's more than a budget cycle. Or we can set a cap and we know we do not go over that for each employee.
What's a vesting period?
Vesting period will be 2-year principal vesting is what I got here. And there's many options for that. I do recommend not doing immediate vesting. That gives us a little bit of a tool to try to retain people. But at the same time, balancing it of if someone goes, 2 years or longer, I don't want to try to hamstring someone for 10 years to stay here, which I think that would be illegal as far as vesting goes. You can do graduated vesting as well. And that's, year one is 0% vested, year two, 20% vested, 40% vested. And then if they decide to leave, they take whatever they're at in years to the graduated period with them.
Got it.
So those are some options we can.
But you're recommending the 2-year flip vesting, which is that 2 years you're fully vested.
Right.
So this sort of package is like when you go, you take it all with you, whatever your portion.
At 2 years. So that would be the cliff vesting.
That's what I mean. So once vested,
Right.
you would, so, okay. What I'm saying is it's not like where you're gonna get retirement pay every month like the corporate retirement of that nature.
Well, most corporates still has some kind of vesting. Very few do immediate vesting because it's that balancing act, right? We want to use this as a tool for retention, but at the same time, we don't want to make someone stay here for this alone. So it's kind of, I think an easy way to look at it. I bring a lot of things back to the military because that's what I'm doing, right? It'd be like a bonus. Like, here's your bonus. You have the option to take it or leave it. If you get out before that somehow, well, you got to put that back. So it's almost like a vesting, just do it back.
If a staff member decides not to invest in themselves at all by putting any money in, the city wouldn't either.
Correct. And there's ways you can do that too. If you really wanted to promote investing for someone's future, you can make a mandatory percentage of salary go to funding for themselves.
Mhm.
And there's limits on that too.
Do most employees, are most employees interested in putting a certain percentage of their salary?
I think most employees are interested in retirement. Now, when that comes to fruition, if people are interested in funding it, that's up for debate. Because, life changes, people want to change the percentage they're investing or take it down to zero because of the life event. And those are things that a lot of people make as a personal decision. But I think everyone is really able to have something.
Since GMA is administering this, or would be, if we decide to go with this, they'll be responsible for all the payouts or
Right.
tracking contributions. How would that interface with our current pay stubs and things like that? Is that
So
fully integrated, so they'll have a monthly?
not fully integrated as an automatic, so that's something we would have to put in as showing how the wheel works. That is something that's definitely capable to do with our system. But as far as, say, someone leaves and they want to stick with these accounts, GMA would be who they contact, not the city. Or if they want to roll it over, it'd be through that mechanism. GMA.
And do we have a cost factor for GMAs administering this?
So that's where this questionnaire comes into play is we would fill this out and give it to GMA. They'll look at it for their legal review, which is at no cost. And then the administrative costs, we would get an estimate on that.
Okay.
But I will say it's going to be drastically lower than funding revision as far as administrative costs. From what Mr. Randy Baskins is, it's almost negligible compared to actually funding.
This is like other typical ones where if an employee goes off and eventually starts pulling on money, that they can name a survivor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is something we're looking at for this budget year coming up.
Yes, and the percentages as well, and I'll have that available prior to the agenda coming out for the meeting, is how much this would cost. As far as right now, if we implemented it to the rest of the budget cycle. And I have no worries that it fits into our budget, especially for a half year. I think we're gonna be right under what we budgeted. So we'll actually be pretty, healthy as far as this goes.
Yes. All righty. We'll wait for you to bring this back to a council meeting. Okay.
Joe, one other quick question just occurred to me. Employees that we currently have, they've got time in. Lynn's been with us over a year now, so would we count from her hire date, her start date, as far as her time in? Or when she would be vested then, even though we're only starting the program?
Right, and that's an option that council can like debate. I'll get more information from Randy about it. But as an example, I know, for instance, if I was working with the federal government, I can buy my meters. So say I would be at roughly a $20,000 match for 2 years. Usually there's a fee for me to buy that time, so it could be like $10,000 to buy that match back. I'm sure there's a system similar to that to count those years and for the funding purposes. There's also going to be the question of vesting. So you can do that separate.
Okay.
Well, you've been here X number of years, so you fit into this investing category, even though we start the program. But that is definitely something that council can play in this.
Any other questions, guys? Okay. I don't believe we have any executive session today. So I will ask if there's a motion to adjourn.
I'll speak that motion.
Rachel, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of adjourning? Please raise your hand. Thank you all. It was a nice meeting. Nice. Thank you, Joe. And thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.